do you think, for instance, that the chant "For the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," is that an anti-Semitic chant in your view?
Yes.
A lot of people up and down the country since October the 7th have commented on the marches that go on and the insecurity and the delegitimisation of Israel.
The marches, it's the cumulative effect of the marches, the repeat, and the impact that has on so many people. But also what is said, what is chanted by some, not all, within the marches, I think we need to absolutely address, and that's why I've asked the Home Secretary to carry out a review, and she's already moving on the cumulative impact.
But just push you on that specifically, so do you think, for instance, that the chant "For the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," is that an anti-Semitic chant in your view?
Yes.
Starmer rebukes Khan over river to the sea controversy. Welcome back to British News Blog, where we cut through the noise and deliver British politics exactly as it unfolds. No filters, no nonsense. If you're not already subscribed, hit that button now because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Right, let's get straight into it. A political firestorm has erupted at the very heart of the Labour Party, and it's the sort of row that doesn't just fade quietly into the Westminster ether. This isn't some minor policy disagreement tucked away in a committee room. This is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom publicly slapping down the Mayor of London. And the issue at hand? Whether a controversial pro-Palestine chant is anti-Semitic. The tensions are palpable, the stakes are enormous, and the implications stretch far beyond a single statement made at City Hall. Sadiq Khan, London's mayor and a prominent Labour figure, found himself at mayoral question time last Thursday facing a pointed question about pro-Palestine demonstrations. Specifically, he was asked whether protesters screaming from the river to the sea were being anti-Semitic. His response: "I don't believe it's anti-Semitic. It's all about context." Now, those 7 words have detonated like a political hand grenade, and the fallout is spreading rapidly through Labour's upper echelons and beyond. Let's be clear about what we're discussing here. The phrase "from the river to the sea" has been chanted at numerous pro-Palestine marches across London and indeed throughout Britain. For many in the Jewish community, this slogan is not merely political expression. It represents something far darker, an implicit call for the elimination of Israel as a state, stretching from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. For them, it's a direct threat wrapped in activist language, a denial of Israel's right to exist, and fundamentally anti-Semitic at its core. Khan's dismissal of this interpretation as merely contextual has sent shockwaves through Britain's Jewish communities and triggered an unprecedented rebuke from the very top of government. Enter Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister who built his early leadership of the Labour Party on one unshakable promise: to eradicate anti-Semitism from Labour's ranks. Remember, this was the man who inherited a party drowning in anti-Semitism scandals under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, a party that had hemorrhaged Jewish members and faced an investigation by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Starmer made cleaning up Labour his absolute priority, and he did so with ruthless efficiency, suspending Corbyn himself and systematically removing those who failed to meet his standards on anti-Semitism. So when Sadiq Khan made his remarks defending the chant, Starmer's response was never going to be tepid. Make sure you're subscribed because we're diving deeper into political controversies like this every single week. Hit that notification bell as well. At an event earlier today, when asked directly whether he agreed with Khan's assessment, Starmer's response was brutally succinct. Yes. Not yes, he agreed with Khan, but yes, the chant is anti-Semitic. Full stop. No equivocation. No carefully parsed political language. Just a flat contradiction of London's mayor delivered in the most public forum possible. Starmer then went considerably further, outlining exactly why this matters and why Khan's position is, in his view, fundamentally wrong. Speaking to the Jewish Chronicle, the Prime Minister didn't mince words. "The first thing I had to do as head of the Labour Party was to eradicate anti-Semitism within my party, and I made that my top priority," he stated. "Until we had handled that in our party, I was aware that we would not be able to present ourselves to the voters. I believe we must adopt the same strategy toward the nation, with the same resolve in tackling anti-Semitism. These aren't just political platitudes. This is Starmer drawing a direct line from his work reforming Labour to his vision for governing Britain, and Khan's comments clearly don't fit that vision. Starmer went on to address the cumulative impact of the repeated marches through London, protests that have become a weekly fixture in parts of the capital. It's the cumulative impact of the marches, repeated, and repeated, and the effect that has on so many individuals, he explained. But what is spoken, what is sung by some, not all, during the marches is also important. I think we need to address it thoroughly. The Prime Minister revealed he has instructed the Home Secretary to conduct a review focusing precisely on this cumulative effect, a clear signal that government action may be forthcoming. When pressed specifically about Khan's remarks, Starmer maintained he has a strong view on this and pointed to Labour's internal disciplinary record. In my own party, we have handled instances where individuals have used that term, and we have taken action against them. As a result, the record I have as head of my party is not simply what I am saying to you here now. Translation: Labour members have been disciplined for using this very phrase, so how can the Mayor of London defend it? The contradiction is glaring, and Starmer is making sure everyone sees it. The political knives are out now, and they're coming from all directions. Sir James cleverly, speaking for the Conservatives, didn't hold back. From the river to the sea is a chant that calls for wiping out the sole Jewish nation in the world, he declared. Saying it's not anti-Semitic is just plain ridiculous. In the face of persistent hate marches on London streets, Sadiq Khan has once again failed the Jewish community of the capital. That's a devastating attack from the opposition, and it lands with particular force because Khan is politically isolated, rebuked by his own Prime Minister and hammered by the Conservatives simultaneously. Reform UK's Alex Wilson, head of our London Assembly Group, was even more blunt in his criticism of the Mayor's appalling record at tackling anti-Semitism. Wilson stated, "Everyone understands that from the river to the sea refers to the extermination of all Jews. Globalize the Intifada is something we all understand. This implies killing Jews on the streets of Britain. These are calling for Jews to be put to death, but Sadiq is unwilling to acknowledge this." Strong words indeed, and they reflect a growing frustration among some quarters that London's authorities haven't done enough to address anti-Semitism at these demonstrations. Lord Walney, the former government advisor on political violence John Woodcock, agreed entirely. This is a chant soaked in anti-Semitism, and it should be made completely unacceptable, not excused, he argued. Anyone who thinks it is all right for individuals to chant that hateful expression needs to think about what it is advocating for Palestine to be free from. They mean free from Jews. That interpretation cuts to the heart of why this phrase generates such visceral reactions from Britain's Jewish communities and their allies. If you're finding this analysis valuable, do hit that subscribe button. We're bringing you the most important political stories every week. What makes this row particularly significant is the broader context within which it's erupting. Labour has spent years trying to rebuild trust with Jewish communities after the Corbyn era left that relationship in tatters. Starmer's leadership was supposed to represent a clean break, a return to a Labour Party that British Jews could support without reservation. Khan's comments threatened to undermine that carefully constructed narrative, suggesting that perhaps the culture change within Labour isn't as complete as Starmer would have us believe. When a figure as prominent as the London mayor can publicly defend a phrase that many Jews find deeply threatening, it raises uncomfortable questions about whether Labour's transformation is truly embedded throughout the party. The political calculations here are fascinating. Khan is not some backbench troublemaker or marginal activist. He's the directly elected mayor of Britain's capital city, a Labour politician with his own substantial mandate and political base. He's been mayor since 2016, winning 3 consecutive elections. He doesn't answer to Starmer in the traditional hierarchical sense, and has proven himself electorally successful in London. Yet Starmer has chosen to publicly contradict him in the starkest possible terms. That tells you everything about how seriously the Prime Minister views this issue and how concerned he is about Labour's reputation on anti-Semitism. There's also the question of what happens next within Labour. Will Khan walk back his comments? Will there be private conversations, public clarifications, or an ongoing standoff? Starmer has made his position crystal clear. but Khan hasn't issued any statement suggesting he's changed his view. The mayor has long positioned himself as supportive of Palestinian rights and has been vocal in calling for ceasefires and criticizing Israeli military actions in Gaza. His political base in London includes significant Muslim and pro-Palestine constituencies. Backing down might be seen as betrayal by those supporters, but maintaining his position puts him in direct conflict with his party leader, who also happens to be the Prime Minister. Monday saw another telling moment when Lee Anderson questioned Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, about whether she agreed with Khan's characterization of the chant. She declined to answer. That non-response speaks volumes. The Home Secretary, one of the most senior figures in Starmer's government, clearly didn't want to publicly align herself with Khan's position, but neither did she want to openly criticize him at that moment. It took Starmer himself to deliver the unequivocal rebuke that the government's position demanded. The political ramifications extend beyond Labour's internal dynamics. The Conservative opposition now has a clear line of attack. Labour talks about tackling anti-Semitism, but can't even get its own London mayor on board. Reform UK is positioning itself as even more robust in defending Jewish communities. The political pressure on Starmer to demonstrate concrete action, not just rhetoric, is intensifying. His instruction to the Home Secretary to review the cumulative impact of these protests suggests policy changes may be coming, potentially including stricter regulations on what can be chanted at demonstrations or enhanced police powers to intervene. Britain's Jewish community organizations have been remarkably vocal about their concerns regarding these protests and the language used at them. They've documented instances of openly anti-Semitic signs, chants calling for intifada, and an atmosphere they describe as intimidating and threatening. For many British Jews, walking past these protests or even traveling through areas where they occur has become an anxiety-inducing experience. Khan's suggestion that context determines whether from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic doesn't address their lived experience of feeling unsafe in their own capital city. Subscribe now if you want to stay informed about British politics without the mainstream media spin. We're building a community here at British News Blog. The timing of this controversy is also significant. Middle East tensions remain elevated. British foreign policy on Israel-Palestine is under constant scrutiny, and domestic politics around immigration, integration, and community relations are particularly fraught. Every major political party is trying to navigate these issues without alienating crucial voting blocs. Labour won the election partly by rebuilding trust with moderate voters who had abandoned the party under Corbyn. Khan's comments risk reopening old wounds and reminding those voters why they left Labour in the first place. What's perhaps most striking is the sheer clarity of Starmer's rebuke. Prime ministers typically find ways to paper over disagreements with their own party's elected officials, especially someone as prominent as the London mayor. The fact that Starmer chose public confrontation over private management suggests either that Khan's comments were so damaging they couldn't be left unchallenged, or that Starmer calculated the political benefit of being seen to take the strongest possible stance on anti-Semitism outweighed any damage from internal party conflict. Possibly both. This isn't the first time Sadiq Khan has found himself at odds with sections of his own party or facing criticism over his handling of sensitive community issues. His mayoralty has been marked by various controversies, from knife crime to transport policy to his relationship with the police. But this particular row goes to the heart of Labour's modern identity and Starmer's personal project to transform the party. It's not about policy details or administrative competence. It's about fundamental values and whether Labour has genuinely changed its culture around anti-Semitism. The question of context that Khan raised is worth examining briefly. Defenders of the phrase argue it represents Palestinian aspirations for statehood and freedom throughout historic Palestine, not a call for violence against Jews. They point out that many Palestinians and their supporters use it to express legitimate political goals. However, critics respond that whatever the intent of some users, the phrase's practical meaning in the context of Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the elimination of Israel, which necessarily implies either the mass exodus or subjugation of Israeli Jews. In Britain's polarized debate over Israel-Palestine, these competing interpretations create deep divides. Starmer has essentially declared that in British political discourse, whatever nuances might theoretically exist, the phrase should be considered anti-Semitic. That's a political judgment with real consequences. It means Labour politicians who use or defend the phrase can expect disciplinary action. It means the government may seek to restrict its use at demonstrations. It means Britain's approach to this aspect of the Israel-Palestine debate has shifted decisively. Before we wrap up, make sure you've subscribed to British News Blog because we're covering every major political development as it happens, with a depth and analysis you won't find anywhere else. The relationship between Starmer and Khan moving forward will be fascinating to watch. Can they maintain a working relationship after such a public disagreement? Will Khan shift his position, or will this become an ongoing source of tension? Does Khan even need to worry about Starmer's displeasure, given his direct electoral mandate from Londoners? These questions will play out in the weeks and months ahead. But what's certain is that Starmer has drawn a very clear line on what is acceptable when discussing anti-Semitism, and Khan has found himself on the wrong side of it. This story exemplifies modern British politics at its most complex, intersecting questions of identity, community relations, free speech, party discipline, and electoral calculation all colliding in one explosive moment. It's exactly the sort of story we'll continue bringing you here at British News Blog, cutting through the spin to give you the real story behind the headlines. So there you have it. The Prime Minister has publicly contradicted his own party's London mayor on one of the most sensitive issues in British politics. Khan stands accused of failing London's Jewish community. Starmer has reasserted his zero-tolerance approach to anti-Semitism. The political battle lines are drawn, and this controversy is far from over. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, and we'll keep you informed every step of the way. Until next time, this has been British News Blog.